Going to be starting in 2 minutes. Ready? Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream for the Desert Classic. I'm your host, Red Kachik, coming this week with Jacob Ray, goes by JK Ray ASU. And guys, we'll go ahead and get started here shortly. We'll let a few more people roll in. But yeah, let's bring in Jacob a bit and see how he is doing this fine Wednesday evening.
Doing good, Drew. Doing good. Excited to catch up on a couple things. I think, last week we were kind of getting our feet under us with the process and day by day. And this week I was actually able to do quite a bit more digging in some guys that I otherwise had sort of passed over a little bit. So excited to kick it off tonight and touch on some plays, touch on a little weather, and if we got course stacks or not.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting week across the industry. When we record on Monday night, we don't hear a lot from other people. We're kind of going in with our own naked eye, figuring out what we want to look at. And it's been a reoccurring story throughout the week as far as the golf course rotation, which we can get into here shortly. And then the weather, I think there's been question marks around, and maybe it was the rain or maybe the wind that's going to come up. I think you're going to talk to that here in a bit. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this week. I know people were disappointed, not disappointed, but they were a little bit let down that there's 3 rounds and then a cut. We got Orange Man in there. Ric Flair is in the house. See Woo. But yeah, how do you feel about the 3 rounds and then a cut? This is the first week I'm playing cash. The Tournament of Champions obviously isn't a cash week. The Sony I didn't feel good about because you had not a lot of history to go off of these guys. So how do you feel about 3 rounds and then a cut? Are you, strategizing differently? Are you doing anything out of the ordinary?
Not really doing anything out of the ordinary. I playing my normal amount. Actually, this week instead of doing a single, I I've got one secondary lineup, and it's only because there was a pairing that I was between and really liked both of them
Mm-hmm.
with my core four. So I decided to just toss that one in a couple.
Okay.
Nothing crazy big, but I really, really feel good about this week. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the three-course rotation, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, that's another day that you definitely get to sweat your guys making a elevated cut. So more golf with some action on it. I don't mind it one bit. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. I feel pretty good. It makes me kind of nervous. I don't always like feeling good. It's always kind of it's a weird, like, nervous feeling. Like you're excited for, this big week, and then if there's a little bit of letdown right off the bat, it's always a big bummer. But looks like we're getting some guys gathering, so let's go ahead and jump into the agenda real quick. Again, we're going to walk through each of these. We're going to switch up the Q&A a little bit this week. We're going to try to monitor chat because it seemed like there was a lot of questions that popped up throughout the show last week that we probably should have hit on at the time that came up instead of waiting to the end and then trying to feed through 20 or 30 questions. So the Q&A should be sprinkled throughout there, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, we're going to go through not so much a podcast review, but kind of talking about some guys maybe we changed our minds on. I definitely have some in the low end, even though I don't plan to dip down there too much. But we'll talk on some of those, and we'll hit on the weather. We'll talk about the course rotation that we mentioned earlier. And, of course, we got the giveaways. No golf club this week. I don't know if H3 Buddha's in the chat, but I think he got his club today or yesterday. He got the Ping G400 Hybrid, I believe. So
Nice.
no golf club this week, but definitely some more stuff to give away. So we got some swag, some golf balls, some hats and shirts. So we got some decent stuff. But
Awesome.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into some of these players. We'll try to bounce it back and forth just a little bit. We don't have to spend too much time really selling anybody on this. Hopefully at this point in the week they're not, grasping at straws for players. But again, the guys that I mostly changed my mind on, or at least have added to my player pool, are more on the low end than the high end. So on the high end, I will note I'm a little bit interested in Justin Rose. Also, I don't know if this is a good sign or not, but he happened to pop up on my phone. There was a notification that he went live with, I forget the guy's name from the PGA Tour, but he was doing an on-course interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was on a par 3. He hit the flagstick to hit it like 3 feet. So that's not the reason why I'm on him, but I also saw that around the same time that I was kind of changing my tune a little bit on Rose. I was planning to just fade him. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in Rose. He made a really good point. I think people made a deal out of his new clubs. And granted, I think he kind of downplayed it a tad, but he made a good point that all these guys are tinkering with new clubs this time of year. They're pulling out new shafts, trying new heads, whatever it is. Irons don't change that much, to be honest. Like, it's a little bit of feel, but mostly if they play in the same shaft, it's going to match up pretty well. Usually drivers are the ones that they tinker with the most. But, yeah, I'm not too concerned with him as far as his clubs go. So he is added to the player pool. I don't think he'll make a cash lineup, but definitely in GPPs. And he should be pretty low owned, which we can look at some ownership projections care of FanShare Sports here in just a moment. But yeah, going down the list, I'll just kind of rip off a few names down to the low end. So if you're looking for guys in the 6K range, and I really hate going down there, but you'll notice on our betting card, one of them is Mr. Hank Lebioda from the Web.com Tour. He's at 6,200, and he hasn't really played that many events, but he's played decent. And I don't have the last few stats, but I'll pull it up. If you look at, let's see here. Internet's moving. All right. So the last 2 events he played was the RSM and then the Sony last week. So first off, check the box. He played last week. That's good. He gained 3.5 strokes tee to green at the RSM. That's a good sign. And he gained 4 strokes tee to green last week at the Sony. So I'm digging that. He lost strokes putting both weeks. So a guy that's 6,200, looking through his stats, like, he's long enough. He shouldn't have a problem, even though these courses aren't that long. But 6,200 for Hank Libiota, he is definitely in my player pool this week, and he's super cheap. So if you have had trouble fitting like a John Rahm into your lineup and having a decent balance, I think he's like a really good salary saver, and you're going to get 3 rounds out of him, so it's not going to kill you if he misses the cut. But I honestly feel pretty good about him. He's on the betting card as a top 10 bet. So moving down the list, Adam Svensson, Pat Mayo mentioned, kind of like that. Last week was a little nervous. I think I mentioned that on the podcast, but added him back into the player pool. The other two is Alex Prue at 6,600. I think he's decent. And then Chase Wright, who's technically not in the 6Ks, but he's 7,000. Kind of watched him last week. He's a younger guy. Feel pretty good about him if you had to dip down. He's the same price as Sabatini, so I don't know if any of those popped up on your radar in the last 2 days, but that's kind of where my head has gone a little bit.
Are we just talking down low or just in general?
In general, my main, in the middle, there really wasn't a lot of change for me, but down low, I really want to build at least a decent ROM lineup, and there's no way to do that unless you dip down immediately into like the low 8s and then the 7s, or you're going to have to get into the 6s. So that was kind of my mentality. The rest of the guys, I really haven't changed my thoughts on too much.
Okay. Are you, for your low guys, are you weighing any of the course rotation into that?
No, because they're. Okay. Well, here's the deal with some of that, and we can get to it here in a minute. I was planning to pull up a slide about it, but the guys are stacked. The good players are stacked on La Quinta, I think, right off the bat. Yeah. And that provides them finishing on the stadium course Saturday for TV time. So you're not going to get elite guys starting on the stadium. So when you get down to 6K, you're probably mixing and matching some stadium course guys, which I'm not really that concerned with, which we can get to. But yeah, they're too cheap, man. I'm just looking for guys with decent form that can make the cut, play a decent 3 rounds.
All right. Well, I do. I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. So the number one guy that really stood out to me was Sam Saunders. And I was looking actually in my model, and there are a couple 6K guys that pop up in there. Sean Stephanie, Adam Svensson, David Hearn, Alex Prue. But Stephanie has terrible course history. I think he's missed like 5 cuts in a row or something here.
He was talked about a little bit last week, and I wasn't. I think they actually brought it up in the chat here. Somebody did. Might have been Vlad, Vidra Vlad, who had a good week. I saw that. But, yeah, he was talked up a little last week. I'm not sure I'm interested there. But go ahead and feed me your interest in Stephanie.
No, I don't have interest in Stephanie. I was saying he showed up in my model the same way he did last week. I think it's being weighted a little bit. I'm not sure where from, but then his course history is terrible, so no interest there. Hearn, same thing, 3 missed cuts in a row at this event with pretty decent stats, tee to green, greens in regulation, things like that. Again, not really interested in that. But this is when I came to Sam Saunders. I see Buddha say there that Saunders popped for him last week. If we look at his last 3 tournaments, 26th at Sanderson, 59th at RSM, and a 33rd last week at the Sony. That's 3 made cuts in a row. It looks like he gained over 3 strokes approach in all of those, except for the Sony, which was 33 last week. See, 2.7 off the tee, 3 strokes total. And then I started looking at his course history here. Now, he missed the cut 4 straight appearances in a row, and he finally broke through last year and finished 8th. I certainly think that you could do much worse than Sam Saunders if you're looking for a 6K guy. I mean, he's coming in. He played the Sony. Didn't play all that terrible. RSM wasn't great, and then Sanderson Farms before that was a 25th or 26th or something.
what about Munoz? Not to cut you off, but like that's a
Yeah, no,
that's a
you're good.
pretty good play off of last week. Nick Verone, which is a good announcement at the end of the show. He'll be joining us on the podcast, or myself on the podcast next week. So welcome, Nick. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Munoz? I think I mentioned it to Pat on his podcast yesterday, and like
Yeah.
kind of mixed reviews. Like he's very streaky, and he had a good finish last week. He's cheap, 6,500. I don't think he's a bad sprinkle in GPPs, but he's definitely not going to be like a higher priority for me to try to get to. I'm really trying not to have to get down there. And what's your thoughts on Munoz at 6,500?
No, I like Munoz. He was another one that I was going to touch on. Ranks 21st, tee to green in my model, 14th better birdie or better gain. And again, we can point to his form last week. I think he shot really well. Was it the last round and sort of backdoor to top 10 there. Gained 9 strokes relative to the field total. He actually had a down week if we look at his approach, which normally it appears is one of his stronger suits. So let's say his approach is dialed in for that. Maybe he does better than a T10. But I do like that play. I think. And he's even cheaper than Saunders, 300 cheaper. So I do think that those are two quality options. Everybody in the 6K range you're not going to feel super comfortable about, but those are certainly two names that make it a little bit more bearable knowing that you've got Rahm up top.
Yeah, one second. I pulled up the pricing, and it didn't pull in the new sheet. So I'm going to try to add that real fast, live on the air. So, but yeah.
I saw it earlier.
I know. I don't know what happened. I don't see it. Now I do.
Okay. I can keep going up the list if you want.
Yeah, real quick. Let me just add this real quick because I don't want dead spot on this. So I apologize, guys. Go for it.
So moving up the list, one guy that I think I picked your brain a little bit about, and I know we briefly touched on him during the podcast, is Sabatini at an even 7K. I know that his putting was pretty off. I think he lost over 3 strokes putting last week, and still ended up not that bad off. Let me find him very quickly. But I do have some interest in him. I know that he has
Who are you talking about? I kind of missed that when I was adding it. I did get it up and running, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Sabatini.
Oh, yeah. I'm hesitant on him. I like the numbers from last week, but I don't know. At 7,000, I think people will go to him. And we can look at some of that ownership here in a second on FanShare, but I don't know. Are you leaning heavier that way or further away? You're just kind of indifferent.
I think I'm indifferent.
Okay.
Similar to Saunders. Last week he finished 33rd at Sony. Not a great finish at Mayakoba, and then missed cut at Shriners. Before that, he finished T20 at Sanderson. So that's not terrible. It's not great either, but then you look at his course history. Made the cut the last 2 years here, but finished near dead last, and then missed the cut the year before that. He's got some decent finishes, but those are, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So
yeah. So I have two that are outside the 6K that I'll touch on. I did bring it up. I did not talk about it on our podcast, but I did talk about it on Pat's show. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I forgot. But Jason Kokrak is really crept up for me. We haven't seen him since the RSM, I don't think. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen Jason Kokrak, but this seems like a decent golf course for him. He had decent form when he finished at the RSM, but he's had 2 top 10s here. Granted, it was over like a 6-year span, but he's 7,100. I don't mind. There you go, Nick. I feel better now if Nick's got some Kokrak. But yeah, I think Kokrak's all right, man. I wouldn't say he's sneaky, but like on this golf course, he could fire some low rounds.
Yeah.
Look at H3 Buddha trying to get another club. He just donated $10. Thanks, Mike.
What are you concerned about the reason that he withdrew, the unknown reason that he withdrew from the Sony?
Kokrak?
Yeah.
I didn't know he withdrew. I just didn't think he decided to play. But was it an injury, you think?
Well, it was undisclosed, but he was in the field and then withdrew.
I missed that. I don't know if Nick saw that and maybe he has thoughts. But no, I did not see that. I'm not going to change my mind now. So, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I saw something on Twitter earlier where somebody was asking.
Okay. This guy.
Does anybody know the reason that Kokrak?
Johnny Utah, 79. He says he had his second child in December. He WD because his wife had a kid in December. Perfect. Now he's got some baby swag, a little Pat Mayo baby swag going.
Oh man, I might have to get on some Kokrak.
I probably got like 2 more we can touch on, but let's go ahead and I'm sure these guys, we're not going to tease them with giveaways just yet, but let's go ahead and talk about the weather, and then let's talk about the course rotation. I think the course rotation has been talked of a bunch this week, and shout out to Giant Beer in the chat, who's one of our members, and I think it actually came from Josh Culp on Twitter, but we'll get to that here in a second. But let's go ahead and talk about some weather, if you have any thoughts of how we should kind of approach it.
Yeah, so the weather, I think there's been a lot of chatter about it, but it sounds mostly like uncertainty.
I mean, it looks good to me, and I know it rained today, or it was supposed to be rainy or overcast, but I mean, it doesn't look like a ton of wind. I mean, what are we really concerned about?
Well, the major concern was just that. It was the uncertainty. There were a bunch of different, multiple reports reporting that the wind was going to be not an issue, and then there were a couple, one that I looked at earlier that showed Friday that winds were going to pick up in the afternoon. And I believe there was another comment from Josh Culp where there were going to be winds that picked up in the afternoon. And then that made me dig even further, and I cross-referenced like 3 or 4 other sites and couldn't find where this wind was coming from. And then the initial one where I saw it adjusted back to what we were all hearing, which was, little to no wind through the entirety of the tournament.
Okay.
So I just think, I don't think it's going to be anything worth considering when determining a player.
Yep.
But I think, like I said, the uncertainty is where it became a topic. There is a chance for scattered showers Thursday morning, but that's really during the first couple hours, and the precipitation chances, honestly, I think it's less than 20%.
Yeah, and they're all teeing off around the same time because they're spread out so much. Now these rounds could take 6 hours because they're all playing with with AMs.
Yeah,
they're the pro half of the AM, the pro AM.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not weighing too much weather. I just kind of eyeballed it this week. But yeah, I heard so much chatter about it. I was really surprised. The one thing I do want to get to is the courses. You want to talk? Let's talk some course rotations for a second.
Let's do it.
So this was, I think Giant Beer's in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you got this from Josh Culp, which I should probably turn on his notifications because he's usually really sharp. But yeah, so basically the thought this week was, you don't want guys starting on the stadium course. And I kind of already mentioned the way the PGA Tour structures this event. They don't want the better players starting on the stadium course for obvious reasons, for TV on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, most likely you probably made a player pool and 9 out of 10 guys down your list were playing like La Quinta, maybe Nicklaus.
Yeah.
And that's by design. So let's just talk a little bit about this whole, Giant Beer says Culp. 2016. So what we saw a lot this week was 2018, right? So I'll jump down to the bottom right on the chart here. In the top 10s, there were 6 from La Quinta, 4 from the tournament. Was that Nicklaus tournament? and then
Yeah.
then Stadium, then La Quinta. 6 from La Quinta, 4 started on the tournament course, and then 0 from the Stadium course. So there's no top 10s from the Stadium course. But then you start going back a little bit. 2017, it was a 5-4-2 split. You know, it's kind of spreading out. And then in 2016, a 4-3-3 split. So,
Pretty even.
yeah, pretty even. So in total, it was a 12-11-8 in favor of the tournament and then the La Quinta. And La Quinta is supposed to be easier. So you would think actually La Quinta would be higher starting off. So I think generally speaking, your player pool probably won't include a ton of guys starting on the Stadium. But like you mentioned with those cheaper guys, you're probably you can't really avoid cheaper guys that are starting on the Stadium. So if you are really concerned about that, I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, initially I was really trying to structure hard to avoid the Stadium, but after looking through some other previous year's results, and then my player pool in general kind of doesn't hit it anyways, but I don't think as a player this week you should really be that concerned playing guys that are starting on the Stadium course. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the data obviously shows that it pretty much moderates itself. It looks like last year was an outlier if we're going back a few years with no one in the top 10 from the Stadium course. But I think that it was noted earlier that they had some weather last year also, and that might have contributed to, you know, the Stadium course playing tougher. So just like you, I have, by default, the players that I am focusing on, none of them were really starting on the Stadium course. There were maybe 2 or 3 guys that I had some interest in, and you know, after I dug a little bit deeper, and again, for my player pool, you know, I normally only do one lineup, so it starts and really gets, you know, fine-tuned down to maybe 10 players to choose my 6 from. This week I did a second lineup, but for the most part, you know, I have a really small player pool, and not really any of the Stadium course guys made it.
Exactly.
So it wasn't a huge consideration in my part. It was more amusing for me to just watch people go back and forth about it than anything.
Okay. Sod Cemetery, thank you for the follow. All right. Any other thoughts? I got some fan share stuff pulled up. Again, we'll talk about some ownership. Just mention that. It's really spread out this week. But any other thoughts throughout the players this week that you've kind of changed a bit? Like I said, up on the high end, the only one I really changed was, you know, Rom was tougher to fit, and I kind of started adding a bit more rows, but it's more from I don't think you can ever say strictly from a GPP point of view because Rose is so good, but I think the clubs is overplayed just a bit.
Yeah, so just a couple guys, and I know the very first thing that I said on the podcast on Monday was I was really uncertain of what I was going to do with the top range, and I've been able to clarify that a little bit with my research. And the only guy that I will go with up there is Cantlay. I was between him and Chill, and just really decided that I probably had a higher upside with Cantlay. That was he was one of the guys in the 2 pairings that I was really, you know, on the fence with. And so he's one guy up there that I'll have. And then really it's just starting with, you know, guys like Aaron Wise, Answer, that I would really move down towards 2 when I don't play him. So
there's 2. One is K Thumbs had a quick question in the chat. He said, isn't it tough to rely on just stats this week since stats are only derived from the Stadium course? Yes, that's true. Again, you're just trying to, like I kind of talked about on the podcast, it doesn't change. You're not being so strict, I don't think, on the golf course fit. I look more at like a longer term course history mixed with ball striking stats, like very, not traditional, but very, I don't know what you would call that. What would you call that? Like ball striking, tee to green. Fundamental. That's what I was looking for. Fundamental stats. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I'm not sure if that answers your question because I think just going into it, I knew that the stats were only coming from the stadium course here, but I still kind of treat it as every other week. You're looking for good ball strikers coming in. So,
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? No.
No, makes sense.
Okay. I only had 2 more questions on players, and then we'll hop to fan share real quick. Let's jump to a giveaway between these 2 segments.
Okay.
Mix it up a bit, but I had 2, and I'm actually curious if people want to throw their opinion in chat. Dude, I feel like I should play Phil Mickelson or at least bet him to win outright. Like, the way I've kind of just turned to. I don't know why you're laughing. Like, I don't feel good about fading Mickelson because this could be like he's going to show up after the match with Tiger, even though, it was a promotional thing and like, yeah, man, and then wins it. And then I'm sitting there with nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you still feel the same way? I mean, he's got good finishes. He looks awful coming in the last half of last year.
Yeah, no, I'd say bet him, don't play him.
All right.
I think that's an easy choice.
And then the last one I got for you. Any thought changes on Zach Johnson? I know you were upset with him last week, but I think I might play a little bit of him in GPPs, but I haven't really changed my tune. His history here is basically, top 25s, top 10s, and then miscuts. So after last week, it's probably a good spot to bounce back in GPPs, but I'm not sure if he won't be in like a cash lineup or anything, but I think in GPPs it's probably a good leverage spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that move off some ownership in that area, whether it's Neiman or Wawrinski or somebody like that. Certainly, that it makes sense to do that in GPPs. If you can get past the recency bias from last week and the miscut, then he doesn't have terrible course history here, and these short courses that are wedge fests, in theory, he should do really well on. So I'm not going to knock you if you play Zach Johnson, but I won't be this week.
Yeah. Him and Phil kind of fell in that same category. Like, by just overlooking him, I think you're just potentially could have a very disappointing Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Possibly. He could miss the cut again. It's just like, who was that? Enjoy mentioned. He doesn't miss back-to-back cuts very often, if ever. I mean, he's as consistent as they come as far as PGA Tour veterans. But let me just look through the chat real fast and make sure we're caught up, and then we'll do, maybe 2 giveaways real quick. And then we'll jump to Fanshare and kind of finish this guy off with some ownership stuff.
All right.
Let me know if you see anything. I'll just try to read through. I know we got behind on that one. Phil's on the never outright list. Mikey, what are you doing, man? He was on the never DK list for me for a little bit, except for Mexico.
Yeah. He should just be on the never list, period.
Do you know what a ZJ is, Jacob?
I am unfamiliar.
Well, if you don't know, then you can't afford it.
Yeah, if it has to do with being really disappointed, then I want no part of it.
Who is Andrew Cust? Is it ZJ? I thought he said it was.
No, it wasn't him.
It was a higher guy, right? Wise, wasn't it? Wise?
No, it wasn't Wise. Was it Kazire?
Kazire, maybe. Kazire. Orange Man says Kazire. Hunter says Kazire. So, well,
yeah,
wasn't in love with him. I was gonna play him, but I'm not gonna. We'll see. All right, let's do Down South Legend. Yes, your comments are showing up. Maybe we missed one of his comments earlier. Probably did. All right, let's just do 2 giveaways. The deal is we're gonna spin the wheel if you're new, figure out what the goodie is. Again, if you're upset we're not giving away a golf club this week, it's because H3 Buddha took it last week. And so did Mindy Mark. But let's go ahead and spin the wheel. See what we got. FGB hat, nice and easy. So
nice. What's it gonna be?
The keyword is Patton, Patton.
Patton. So Trey was asking if you would put your Millie Maker title on the spin circle.
Just the title?
The title of Millionaire Maker.
I know, like give it to someone, give them the title.
It depends on if they win it on the wheel.
Oh, we'll see. All right, let's give you guys 2 more seconds. We'll rip through this. All right, here we go. Buck T 16. Got
Nice.
FGB hat. Alrighty. You may have to DM me on Twitter. I had trouble on Twitch last week. Let me go ahead and spin it. And let's see the second one, then we'll get to fan share. I'm actually excited to point out some of these ownership numbers.
Yeah, no, I want to hear what you got to say. I've been looking at a couple different ones and want to see what.
Are you wearing the OG shirt?
Baggers?
Yeah, you got the Baggers shirt.
Yeah.
All right, this one's easy. It's just Bagger, Bagger. Now that's a prize. That's right. Oh, dude, I thought about getting one of those clubs that we talked about on the podcast. Give one of those away. The T-less driver, the putter, the chipless putter, chipless chipper.
Don't do it.
All right, let's go ahead and roll this guy. Texas wedge. Jacob, you freeze? Move your eyes.
Sorry, I was responding to one that we missed.
All right, here we go. Mindy Mark. I can't. I feel bad about doing that. But we'll do some more here in a second. He won the wedge. But that's all right. He's a winner. All right, well, you want to answer that question? Then I'll pull up fan share right now.
Yeah, no, I did. It was Sanders versus Burns in the 6K. That one just seems pretty easy. I don't think that we have to go down this far. I think it's okay to be pretty balanced to where. I mean, the only lineup that you should have to go down to get somebody in the 6K is where you're trying to stack Rahm with maybe a high 8 or a 9K guy and then drop down some 7s. It just,
yeah.
I don't think it makes sense otherwise.
I have Sam Burns on my list. I feel like he's just got a lot of talent upside that I kind of want to. Yes, wear it to the Masters. So I have him on the list, but all right. I don't know if you can see my screen there, Jacob.
Yeah.
But let's talk through this real quick. Orange Man, can you start your cash lineup in the 9K and still cash this week? Probably.
I like
6 guys get through the cut. You're going to be super bounced through the 8K, which I don't like a ton of guys in the 8K, but that's a better spot than jumping down to the low 7s.
Yeah, for sure. Bo Hostler, what do you think about big man Bo?
I am not on Bo this week. I'll pull it up and see if I can give you some more concrete evidence. Do you have any thoughts on him?
He looked interesting to me. Let me find him really quick. I think that he had a decent first outing last year. And let me just pull up his course history really quick.
I think my main issue is he gets so streaky with the putter, and it's just hard for me to rely on that when I'm putting my player pool together. But a lot of guys do things differently, and it seems like, he relies on his putter. Some guys are just good putters. I mean, it's just part of it. But he looks fine.
Yeah.
I mean, he had really strong finishes throughout last year. His last finish was a miscut at the Mayakoba, but arguably probably isn't his skill set, especially on those slower greens and stuff. But he's really not that bad at this golf course. I mean, this would be fine.
Well, and his only appearance was last year. He finished 20th, and that was losing almost 4 strokes approach. Made up for that with his putter, obviously. But I don't mind the play. might be a little rich for him. Um, but
I
that would
think
just
I
result.
think 8K is okay. It's just a matter of what are you picking him for? And a cash lineup is probably not for me. But
Yeah,
in
I would say it's
GPPs,
GPP for
he's going to
sure.
win on the PGA Tour at some point. I mean, he's super talented.
Yeah,
I know they say that about they throw that term around a lot. They talk about Neiman being talented and all these guys, but I mean, Bo Hostler was in the U.S. Open at like 15, leading it. Remember that? It
yeah,
was like 2010 or something like that. Like
yeah,
you're leading the U.S. Open when you're 15. You're talented, for sure.
yeah.
So all right, let's talk through some numbers real quick. So no surprise, John Rahm's at the top of the list for tags and just kind of eyeballing. It's funny, 1 week difference. You got Hudson Swafford, a 76 tag difference. I don't know exactly how that equates as far as tags go, but yeah, over last week, he really wasn't on anyone's list, and this week he's number 2. Looking at, so kind of going across here, again, you can sign up at fansharesports.com. You can use the promo code Fantasy Golf Bag, all lowercase, and that will get you 20% off any subscription. It's a very handy tool. I know they have a lot of new stuff coming out. They have course history, current form, even though this says course form. Andrew, the owner, told me it's supposed to be current form. And then, of course, they got the World Golf Rankings and now the projected ownership. So the one thing I did want to point out, this will load. Projected ownership seems very spread out outside the first 5 guys maybe. So up at the top you have John Rahm 27%. The one that scares me the most, Mr. Neiman 26%. You got Patrick Cantley 22%, which I think is reasonable for him. Charles Howell 20%, a bit much. Ches Reavie 18, Hudson Swafford 17, and then it kind of spreads out. So like 12%, 10%. So outside of those first 5-6 guys, I don't think you're really going to land on much chalk. It's just a line of construction around. If you want to play John Rahm, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but you're giving up. I mean, you're with 27% of the field most likely in your contest. So
Yeah.
the only one that really scares me for the most part is Neiman, and GPP's at 26%. It'd be hard for me to completely fade him, but I wasn't really high on Neiman as high as other people in the industry, but 26%, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. We we had a question there in chat from BW Robs 2 about Neiman ownership. Should he pivot to Knox if I can fit in the lineup? What are your thoughts on Knox?
I looked at him last week, and let's see here. Wow, 1.3%. Let me pull up his stats from last week. I glanced at him on the podcast, but I don't remember anything that really stuck out to me.
Yeah,
so 43rd, and I don't know if he did anything spectacular. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, so I think that a couple options for pivoting off of the apparently pretty high Neiman chalk. In that same range, just 100 less than Knox, is obviously Zach Johnson. Like we said, he's not a terrible play. If you're still bitter like myself from last week, then it might be harder to click his name, but he's had some intermittent success here, and he did play last week. Well, for only 2 days, but another guy who actually hasn't played this year yet, so certainly there's rust there. Daniel Berger, you can't really deny his talent, but there's certainly the hesitation with not having played yet coming into this event. Richie Wawrinski, it's the same price as Neiman, I think is a good pivot. He had made all 5 cuts in the fall swing, and he's got really decent course history at this event. So I think that's a really solid play. He's got 29th last year and then 9th the year before at this event, and that's on the heels of a 15th at the RSM and a 3rd at Mayakoba.
Yeah, I don't mind Knox. It seems like upside's a little bit limited. He won like he finished first and second back-to-back weeks over in Europe, but like he's a pretty decent ball striker. He just doesn't seem to have a lot of upside. The one, like, if you're really trying to pivot off of Neiman there at 7,600, I think that was his question, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Neiman to Knox. Yeah, like there's other guys around there. Like you mentioned, I think you mentioned Fratelli, and then the one I'm a little bit interested in GPPs is Peter Uihlein. And I know that sounds crazy too, but I think Uihlein, we haven't seen him play since the end of last year, so I don't think he'll have very much ownership at all. Actually, I want to peek at it real quick.
While you're looking at that, let me drop some knowledge about Fratelli.
Oh, wow. Uihlein's at 9%. Yeah, go for Fratelli, man.
So my favorite pivot off of Neiman is Fratelli. He is $100 cheaper, and I did some digging on him. He finished 51st at the Sony last week. He made the cut. I don't care if he's a donut shop, Orangeman, or a great restaurant. He finished 51st at the Sony, made the cut, which Zach Johnson couldn't do apparently. And then prior to that, in some Euro events that he played in the last 2 months or so, he's got finishes of 21st, 7th, 5th, 12th. He's got a miscut in there at the South African Open. And then prior to that, he finished 25th at the Safeway, I believe, or Sanderson, one of those S events at the beginning, and then a 54th in that. So he actually, despite those 3 PGA events that he, made the cut but didn't finish that highly in, he still ranks very well in my model. 11th overall. He's 8th tee to green, 4th in ball striking, 1st off the tee in the last 24 rounds.
Yeah.
Now those are based off PGA statistics. I went a little further and looked at his Euro statistics over the last same time frame.
You're selling Fratelli hard. I like it.
Yeah. So he is 12th in scoring average. He's 11th tee to green. He averages 71% greens in regulation, and is really solid off the tee as well. His projected ownership right now is less than 5%. So
Orange Man's being a Grinch. No, I mean stats are stats over there. 71% green regulation isn't different than 71% green regulation over here for the most part. I mean, maybe some course setup, but yeah, I think he checks a lot of boxes. PGA Tour starts, like he's played very consistent. Euro stats, his finishes recently on the European Tour, like yes, I can definitely argue the Euro finishes are not the same as PGA Tour finishes, but statistically he's top 20, top 15 in every single category in his last like 5-6 starts over in Europe. So Fratelli's up there on my list for sure. So you are recommending playing Fratelli. Got that down. Where I think BW Robs, he had one more as far as Ryder, and I think Ryder's fine. Huh?
Yeah, I think he was asking the same question about Neiman. How do you pivot off potential Ryder chalk?
Oh. Yeah, it's tougher.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like. Do you ever consider guys in your lineup as chalk for you? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going down the list, like, if I'm being completely honest, Lucas Glover would be my chalk, right? Like, he'll be in a lot of my lineups, and I don't mind it. He's not going to match up as far as ownership for the field, but, like, do you ever think, like, Sam Ryder's not my chalk this week? I don't know if you ever thought about it like that, but.
More often than not, I think about chalk relative to the field.
Well, yeah. You do both. I'm just saying, like, I wasn't even thinking of pivots off Ryder because I wasn't playing him that much. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, down there was he 7,200?
Mm-hmm.
Kokrak,
Albertson.
Yeah, Albertson, Kokrak just below him. Kokrak's my favorite, and Nick Verone mentioned Kokrak, and I mean, at least take his word for it. That guy's been crushing for like 2 years now, just European Tour as well. All right, let's I got a couple more things to show in the fan share. We'll get to another couple giveaways, but let's see here. Anyone you want to like pick out? Is there anybody in chat maybe that you guys want to peek at? Oh boy, Mike, I'm giving out your lineup. Albertson, nice.
So to Johnny Utah's any Varner love, he has 3 missed cuts in a row here. So
you want to know how I changed my tune on him?
Did you change your tune? Or are you on Varner now?
I'm not on Varner, but I added him. I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna
let me hear it.
Here's what I'm doing. So
it's the Jordans, isn't it?
No, it's not the Jordans. They're they're not bad, but no. So yeah, looking at his missed cuts there the last couple of years, yes, 3 missed cuts, definitely bad. But when you start looking at his last year, like during that time, he really wasn't that consistent. He'd have good finishes here and there, never really did much. But this last year, man, just eyeballing it, I think he had since June 6 top 10s, 5 top 10s it looks like, and then a handful of top 30s, 2 missed cuts in that same time frame. Like, I think I'm gonna weigh more of him like maturing. He's become a more well-rounded player, so I don't think he'll be very high owned either. I'll pull up Varner real fast. He's at 6% ownership, so yeah, sign me up for some Harold Varner. It won't be a ton, but yeah. The missed cuts definitely scared me off on Monday night, but I'm making the case for more recent form trumping the 3 missed cuts back to back. So
okay. Fair enough. I think that I mentioned him on the podcast.
I know, I shot him down.
And you said, "Oh, cuts, no."
I know.
No, thank you.
That's my initial impression. So, I just wanted to mention another thing, kind of interesting if you're diving into some DFS research early on in the week, is checking out some salary changes. You'll see some notable ones in. You got Andrew Putnam last week. He was 7,400, jumped to 9,700. Obviously, the field strength changes week to week. Aaron Wise, tournament champions, small field, 7,500 up to 9,400. Then looking at some of the drops, Harold Varner was one down to 7,400. Joaquin Neiman at the RSM Classic, 8,900, and people were paying for him at 8,900. And now he's at 7,600. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense why he's so popular. But those are definitely ones that stand out when you start figuring out, why was this automatically on everyone's list? Well, yeah, he dropped a bunch. And I did not notice this. Lucas Glover dropped the RSM Classic. He was almost 10K, 9,900. He's 8,600 now.
Oh, wow.
Kind of adds a bit to it. What's his ownership? I'm curious before we move on real fast.
Yeah, let me get
8%. Guys in chat, do not do it. Do not do it to me. Buy low, buy high. Exactly. I think there's a sell in there somewhere. Neiman was 10K in July. Yeah, he had that good run.
We got some questions about Connors and McCarthy.
Do we?
Yeah.
You got to stay on top of that. Red, we're all it's from Orange Man.
Yeah, and then McCarthy below that.
So Connors, I honestly think I'm gonna fade Connors. He was one of the one of the higher projected ownerships. Yeah, he's at 17.1%. I think after last week, he's a good play. Like, he Monday qualified last week, played pretty solid. Everyone knows he's a very poor putter for the most part. But yeah, everyone's going to be on him. I would rather, in this situation, a guy that's somewhat unproven, it's easier for me just to jump ship here. So he's got the upside for sure, but I think I'm just going to take him and, there was someone else in the mid sevens, but I think I'm just going to fade Corey Connors. You're going to eat the chalk on that?
On who, Connors?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, I'm not.
I have no interest in him.
Any other questions I missed? McCarthy? I do like Denny McCarthy. We'll jump back to this in just a second. Let's pull up the betting card real fast. This is a good segue.
Okay.
Of course, this comes out every single week, usually Wednesday morning by like 10 a.m. I am not like Pat Mayo. I don't wait for the books to open and jump on crazy numbers, and I probably should. Maybe that's a leak. But I think he was on Answer, and Answer was like 60 to 1 or 50 to 1 when he opened, something like that, and he dropped. But yeah, so a couple of the kind of lower end guys, George Cunningham we mentioned, and yeah, he did not make it. Denny McCarthy is not on the list, but yeah, he was one of my contemplations for like a top 10, and I don't mind him. I don't know if they're in the chat. Someone I talked to this morning was on Denny a little bit. But yeah, did you look into him at all?
No, I didn't.
It's a GPP play for sure. I know you think more smaller field stuff, but I think Denny's fine. Yeah, man, we got some long shots. Hank Lebioda, mentioned him, start of the podcast. Top 10, 40 to 1. I mean, it's probably accurate odds for him, but I'll take 40 to 1 on a guy that's been gaining 5 strokes tee to green the last 2 events.
That I guess that's name bias for me, because I'm like,
Lebioda?
Who's this dude, and why do you think he's going to get a T10 here?
It's not so much that I think he will, it's that he can, and the odds are bad. 41 odds, dude.
Okay. That's fine. I'm not a bettor, so I mean, I don't know what's considered good or bad for a particular level of player.
I mean,
and some guys in chat might not know either. So
true. Sam Ryder, 125 to 1 outright. I did place that. It wasn't on the betting card, but I mentioned that on the podcast. 125 to 1. You think that's fair for Sam Ryder?
Oh yeah, no, I would jump on that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to do. Just because you don't know the guy doesn't mean you shouldn't play him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so got that. A couple more things here, and we'll kind of wrap it up, and we'll get to a couple more giveaways and let you guys be on your way. Jacob, keep eyeballing chat while I do this, because I can't do both.
On it. So Mindy Mark asked about Cauley and Hadwin both. I love me some Cauley this week. He has really good course history. His form in the fall swing is not bad at all.
Yep.
And his numbers, I noted this in my article this week, but his numbers are skewed a little bit. I think because of some bad outings that were like 8 months ago.
Talking about Cauley?
And yeah.
Maybe they're picking up some of that, but after the car wreck, dude, he came back strong.
Yeah, but we're talking about the players minus 10 strokes tee to green. I mean, I think that number is going to skew and knock him down. But regardless of that, I think, just like you said, he came back strong after the accident and played well in the fall swing, and then 14th, 3rd, 14th are his last 3 finishes here at this event. So really, really on Bud Cauley. He's locked for me.
Yep. He's high on my list. Let's
What's his ownership?
Yeah, that's what I was checking. Take a stab at it. Oh, you're probably looking at it. Never mind. Forgot.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
He's under 10%. 8%, man.
Fine by me. Love it.
7,400, 8% Bud Cauley. So yeah, I'm on Bud as well. So I don't need to add to anything there. But yeah, so if you guys are, last thing we'll kind of touch on real fast, if you are curious about your players and where they're kind of teeing off, let me pull this sheet back up so I make sure I get the rotations right. When I was reading the card earlier for the course rotations, I was reading it as one course, like the La Quinta Tournament Stadium. I thought that.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was one. So yeah, if you go to the PGA Tour's website and find the leaderboard for the Desert Classic, you'll see the starting course for each of the players. So again, the rotation is going to be, we'll just use, where's Rom at? I think he's starting on La Quinta. Yeah, so La Quinta will be most of the good players start at. The rotation is going to be La Quinta, and then the tournament course, which is the Nicklaus course, and then the stadium course. So you can definitely come see if you are curious about the course rotation. The PGA Tour has it listed where they're starting, and it's the same rotation through. So La Quinta, Nicholas, and then Stadium. If they start on the Nicholas, it's then Nicholas, Stadium, and then back to La Quinta. So it's the same circular. It's all circular. So with that, do you have any final thoughts before we get to the final 3 giveaways for the Desert Classic?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much touched on everybody. The last guy that I had some moderate interest in was Ryan Palmer. But I think I've sort of swayed off him. Decent course form, course history. Hadn't played in a while, but the last form that he showed was good. So
yeah. I'm curious if Giant Beer's still in the chat. You have any thoughts on Ryan Palmer Beer? That's one of those. It's course history looks awesome. We haven't seen him really play in a while, but that one's tough. I think he's in my pool. I think we talked about that earlier, Jacob, but
yeah.
I think people are probably stuck on that. Like, what do you do? It's same with Hadwin. Awful recent form, and then no way.
All in.
I don't know Giant Beer's personality, but I hope for his sake he's joking.
He's probably not.
He's probably not. He's gonna win all the money. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got, man. We can wrap this thing up with the last 3 giveaways.
Let's do it.
If you guys have any last minute questions, go ahead and drop them in chat. We can try to hit a couple as we finish up here at the top of the hour. Again, we appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back next week at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned. Nick Verone is in the chat. Will be my guest on the podcast next Monday night. Jacob's got a little date, I think. So, yeah, Nick Verone, going to be exciting to talk to him. He's a very sharp dude. I have to have Buddha come on at some point as well. What will winning score in a GBP look like?
675.
Probably. In a deep one? Yeah. I mean, it'll be like probably mid sixes. Low to mid sixes is my guess. All right, let's go ahead and run. Where'd the wheel go?
No wheel for you.
The wheel went away. Let's jump back.
If you had to take someone at the very, very, very bottom, who would it be?
Giant Beer says he's got 10% Palmer. Bottom of the pricing?
Yes.
All right, the wheel's back. Let's go ahead and roll this.
What's the lowest you would go for someone pricing wise?
I'm going to Lebiota, dude.
Lebiota? Okay.
Yeah. 6,200. That'll be the lowest I go. All right,
Okay.
FGB T-shirt. All right, we're going to do 3 to finish this thing up. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you don't want to participate in the giveaway, you don't have to. We appreciate it, though. And, H3 Buddha can attest, he did receive a golf club, as painful as that was to stop at the postal service and hand the lady shipping for Boston. So, all right. So, FGB T-shirt. Johnny Appleseed, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. FGB T-shirt. And let's do, what do you want to do for the keyword? Just do beer.
We'll do
beer. We got 2 more to go.
Beer?
Beer for Giant Beer.
Oh, okay. Beer it is.
Type in beer. This is for a FGB T-shirt.
Nice. Oh, there's a lot of people in chat.
No, it's good.
I like it.
That's good. IPA or regular Bud Light? All right, we're rolling it. There's no one else, I don't think. Nick Verone. That'll be his compensation for the podcast. That's fair. You know.
That's fair. That's a good trade-off.
Yeah, $25 shirt for an hour, doing media. Yeah. All right, let's do 2 more quick ones. Again, guys, appreciate you guys checking us out. FGB T-shirt. We're gonna do something different. We can't do 2 in a row.
You got a Zima on that wheel?
Titleist golf balls. That's always a decent one.
Yeah. Logo balls.
All right, give me something. I won't cut you off this time. Gotta go quick though. Top of your head, what you got?
Oh, I don't know. I'm behind watching it.
Balls. Just balls, plural.
Balls plural.
This chat's gonna
Clever.
get flagged. I'll probably get an email from Twitch that suggestive content.
Oh yeah. Spamming the word. I'm proud of all the guys capitalizing the word.
Why?
Very
They don't have
important.
to.
I know it needs to be capitalized. It's an important word.
All right, earmuffs. Yeah, that's for sure. They'll probably put me on the parental control 17 plus whatever.
NC-17.
No, I don't remember. That one's worse than R, right?
Yeah.
Who wins? Who wins? Hoosiers 3-1-7. Hoosiers
317.
3-1-7.
Nice. Way to go.
I don't recognize that name, so go ahead. You should be able to send me a DM on Twitter if you have one tonight. Let's do one more. We'll finish this guy off. We'll get you guys ready to build some lineups. What happened to mentioning balls, everybody? Was that a thing?
I hope not.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think Beer's going to do some Tesla giveaways soon. All right, OG T-shirt.
Another one.
Yeah, we'll do another one. All right.
Yeah, this is the OG T-shirt.
That's nice. Should we do like a tough word like La Quinta?
We can do that. We can do Tesla.
No, we're doing desert.
Desert. Okay.
I did see that, I think, Buddha. He said, did you see the guy who won a... It was a $400 parlay he put in, right? It wasn't the parlay to win 400, right? I'm going to miss it in the middle of all these desserts. Yeah, 400 wagering are crazy. The big boy basketball or whatever his name was hit like a $42,000 parlay, and that was nuts to win. All right, let's roll it. Last one.
Who we got?
Riser. That name seems familiar. Maybe he's just been active in the chat.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Congrats. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Of course, you can find myself on Twitter at the name below right there, at Red Kachik. You can find Jacob at JKRayASU. Of course, all the content stuff is posted at fantasygolfbag.com. Podcast next week. Nick Verone will be the guest. So excited to chat with him. And then Jacob will be back next Wednesday. We'll do the live stream 9 p.m. So hope to see you guys back next week. Good luck this week with your lineups. We hope you had fun tonight. And we will see you on Monday night. See ya.